Ich freue mich, dass wir heute hier mit Mike Bird in Paderborn sind und ich bin gespannt auf unseren Austausch, den wir hier heute in unserem ersten Videocast vom Theologischen Seminar auch euch präsentieren dürfen. Die spannende Reise begann viele Jahre zurück, 1974, und darüber werde ich mit Mike gleich reden und wir werden es auf Englisch das Gespräch führen und dann auf deutsche Untertitel einfügen später, und darauf bin ich gespannt, welches Feedback wir dann auch von euch als Zuschauer erhalten werden, also meldet euch gerne, euer Feedback ist uns wichtig. So Mike, it's great to have you.
Ja, danke. Es ist große Freude, mit Ihnen zu sein.
We enjoyed it a lot last night, not last night as well, but yesterday having you in the church service preaching and giving us a bit of an insight in your ministry. And the one question that I want to start with is, what's your connection to Paderborn? Why are we recording this video here in Paderborn?
Well, ich in Paderborn geboren worden. I was born in Paderborn because my dad was serving in the British Army base, which is no longer here, but has a big legacy in Paderborn. So that's why I was born in Paderborn, and this is the first time I have visited my Geburtsstadt, my city of birth, and it's been a wonderful time with some wonderful people like you and all the other folks from TSA and Paderkirche.
Well, we enjoyed it a lot to stroll around the city, and you almost started something like a rap about born. Sorry, you know, I don't know if you want to dig into that, but probably not.
I used to say born in Paderborn, now rockin' Melbourne, in the army, he was airborne. That's as far as I've got.
You know,
and maybe he fights like Jason Bourne. I don't know. Well, but yeah, that's as far as the rap has got. I'll leave it to posterity to write a rap musical about my life.
Well, we are looking forward to that one, you know, and we will probably then the first time it will be presented will be in Paderborn in the theater.
Yes.
That would be something. So let's get back to more serious stuff here. Theology is always bound up with our biography, and so I would love to talk a bit about that and get into a conversation, because I know that your way into theology is and into becoming an Anglican priest was not straightforward right from the beginning. So can you tell us a bit more about your personal story and how that shapes your theology?
Okay, well, I was obviously born in Paderborn. My family then moved back to England for a while, but unfortunately my parents divorced when I was very young, so when I was about 4, my mother and I moved to Australia, where most of her family already had emigrated. So I grew up in Australia. My mum remarried, and we lived in Western Brisbane, which is a very beautiful city in the state of Queensland. And it was okay. It was just, you know, working class suburban life. Unfortunately, my family became a bit dysfunctional due to various problems with addiction, and home life was often very, very difficult. But it was also a non-religious house. So we didn't go to church. There was no real religious influence. I had a little bit of religious education in school, but not a lot. I thought most Christians were just moralizing geriatrics, just very judgmental old people. That's kind of what I assumed all Christians were. So I wanted to leave home. I had a few interests. I was interested in kickboxing and musical theatre, but I was not going to make a living doing either of them. I finished high school with okay grades. I was like a B- student, so I was okay but not brilliant. But I was unable to get into any of the university courses I wanted to get into. So with nothing else to do, I kind of enlisted in the Australian Army, and I was a very scrawny young man. I think I weighed about 45 kilos. I was like a real scrawny little chicken. And it was difficult. It was difficult physically, mentally, emotionally, but it helped me mature as well. But being in the army, it is a very, you get the best and the worst of masculine culture. So there is very much about, you know, drinking hard and chasing girls, and that sort of a thing. So it's kind of like work hard, party hard. And I did that for a little while, but I got very disenchanted with it. And a friend I worked with invited me to church, and I was kind of bored. So I thought I would go along for something to do. and it was different to what I was expecting. It wasn't moralising geriatrics. It was a lovely church plant in southwestern Sydney, a Baptist church, a lovely church. And these people showed the love of Christ to me. I heard the good news of the gospel, and in 1994 I prayed to receive Christ, and the world was a different place ever since. So that's the story of how I came to faith.
Were you by that time still in the army?
Yes, at that time I was a paratrooper based in Sydney. But I wanted to get out of paratrooping. It is hard. It's like being a professional athlete, and it does take a toll on your body. And by the time I was 21, 22, I thought I've got to find something else. I need to find a job where I have to fight battles with my mind, not with my body. So I was able to transfer to military intelligence. I really enjoyed that. That was good. That was all about dealing with information. There was you develop really good skills in oral presentation and writing, and you have to take in so much information, analyze it, organize it, and then be able to communicate it to the people who need to hear it. So I learned a lot of really good skills about oral and written communication working in military intelligence, and you get a really deep insight into what's happening in various places in the world. And I was doing this just at the beginning of what's called the global war on terror, when Al-Qaeda was beginning to set things in motion for more terrorist acts around the world. But we were also told not much is happening in the world. The Cold War is over. There's no more bad guys, just a few crazy Islamic terrorists, but they'll disappear soon enough. So I thought I might get out of military intelligence, maybe become an army chaplain. So I resigned from the army, and then like a year later, the whole Australian army goes to East Timor on a massive peacekeeping operation. Next year after that is 9/11, and then Australia was helping out America and the Allies in Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 years. So I either got out at just the right time or just the wrong time, depending on how you look at it. But I went to Bible college, went to a very good Baptist college. That was called Queensland Baptist College of Ministries. It's now part of Moorleen College, which was also a very good Baptist college in Australia. But as I was studying, it became very clear I was much better at the academic side than I was on the pastoral side. I think the time in the army just made me too hard and too brutal. Okay.
But it prepared you with all the presentation and gathering all the information.
Yes, and that's why
greatly,
it made me. I was very disciplined, and I was very driven. And that made me ideal to be a very good student, and I had good oral and written communication skills, and that really did help. And they improved more and more as I went on. And I thought, well, maybe I should do some academic stuff. That would be better. And some of my teachers said, yeah, maybe you would make a good teacher. At this time I was also very much young, restless, and reformed. So I was reading all the books by R.C. Sproul and John MacArthur and John Piper. I was kind of like in that world. I kind of moved away a bit from that theologically and ecclesiastically. I mean, still great respect for many of the things they've said and done, but I'm kind of in a slightly different space now. But yeah, I was a member of some very good churches as well. And then I went off and did, say, graduate studies and doctoral studies at the University of Queensland. And that was very good too. So I got to write my PhD thesis on Jesus and the Gentiles.
So that gives us a broad overview or a quick overview of your personal story and your faith story. And you slightly touched on the topic of how you switched from Baptist and moved in a slightly different direction.
Yeah.
Can you say a few more words about that? I think you are now in the Anglican Church, but before that, I think you had an in-between stop, if I'm correct.
Yeah. I should also say, while towards the end of my time in the army, I met a very wonderful young Christian girl called Naomi, and we got married. But she was very lovely, very smart, and she was planning to go overseas, so I had to marry her quickly. So we got married when I was 24 and she was 18. I had to make her think this is the best you're going to do. You should lock me down. But we got married and we have 4 wonderful children together. So yeah, I was in the University of Queensland, where I did my doctorate. I had a very good Lutheran supervisor, Rick Strellan. Then I had to think, well, what am I going to do for a job? And Australia had some good theological colleges, but I mean, they weren't hiring at the time. So I got a job in the north of Scotland at the Highland Theological College, which is a very good evangelical college in the Reformed tradition in Scotland. And they gave me my first teaching job there, and I was very grateful. And the Highlands of Scotland are gorgeous. They were part of a developing university, the University of the Highlands and Islands, and that helped me kind of get integrated into British biblical scholarship, European biblical scholarship. So I got to know people, I got to do things, I got some invitations to do papers. That was a really good time. And it was a very good ministry. They're trying to be a force of renewal in the Church of Scotland and in the general churches of that part of the world, and that was really good. But after nearly 5 years away, it was difficult with family. My mother had very bad health, and my in-laws definitely wanted to see their grandchildren. So we thought about, maybe it's time now to go back, and we went back to the Brisbane School of Theology. But I should also add that when I was in Scotland, most of the churches are some type of Presbyterian. And so I kind of thought, well, I might as well be Presbyterian while I'm here. So I attended some Presbyterian churches that were very good, some good teachers, good ministries, and I kind of got absorbed into the Presbyterian world, which means going from Baptist to Presbyterian. There's a few things you have to get your mind around, like baptism and church governments, but I kind of was okay with that. Then I went back to Brisbane, where I taught at another good college in Brisbane, the Brisbane School of Theology, which is a good place, my hometown, very multicultural. They teach part of their program in Mandarin, so they have a lot of Chinese students, which of course means we have a lot of good Chinese food at some of our lunches, and many good Chinese churches in Brisbane, and a lot of good lecturers there, good ministry, so I really enjoyed that time. But I was also thinking about my doctrine of the church, and I was becoming a bit of a closet Anglophile. And I started to appreciate the Anglican tradition, because when I was in Scotland, I found out that the great biblical scholar, F.F. Bruce, who was a lifelong brethren, he kept 2 books on his desk, a Greek New Testament and the Book of Common Prayer. I thought, well, it seemed to have worked out pretty well for F.F. Bruce, so I started reading through the Book of Common Prayer, and it's great, because I used to think as a Baptist, all these prayers written down. Who writes down written down prayers? That's cheating. That's cheating. Should the Spirit flow through you for your prayer?
Well, Bonhoeffer would have agreed with you. You know, the life together. He also mentions that written prayers are
So I enjoyed the Book of Common Prayer, and a lot of people I admired were Anglican, N.T. Wright, Alistair McGrath, C.S. Lewis, and the Anglican Church is one of the major evangelical forces in Australia. So I kind of, in my mind, I sort of crossed the Thames, if you like, from Westminster to, I was going to say not Downton Abbey, Westminster Abbey. Yeah, Downton Abbey would have been fun. And so in my mind, I had become more Anglican. And so I then received the offer to go to Ridley College in Melbourne, Australia, which is an Anglican college principally for training people for Christian ministry, with a particular emphasis on the Anglican tradition. And I've been there for 12 years. I was ordained as a priest in 2016. And I get to teach New Testament theology, and now they've reached the point of desperation where they made me deputy principal.
Well, that's great, and we will talk about about Anglicanism and your perspective on a few of the recent developments also, and the general understanding in another episode. But what I would like to focus on a bit more now is what does it mean that you are acting principal? No, what did you say? What's your role at?
Deputy principal.
Deputy principal. So what is Ridley really strong about? What's your role there?
Well, my role there is to be in charge of academic affairs. So I help getting the timetables organised, assigning faculty to teach the subjects, keeping the accreditation, also doing general contributions to the leadership team. We have a very good leadership team. The college is headed by Reverend Dr. Rhys Vazant, who's a great teacher, a great mentor, and I've got some really good colleagues at Ridley. And so we train people principally for Anglican ministry, but we have people, Baptist, Pentecostals, people from everywhere. I think what we're known for is good biblical teaching. We have a good on-campus program, a good online program. We also do some very good work on advanced graduate studies, or HDR, higher degrees research, so we have a very good PhD program as well. And yeah, I mean, we want to be known for training people for Christian ministry in an increasingly complex and confused age.
You know, when I'm listening to you, it sounds to me that your military experience, especially then in the intelligence section, really influences what people ask you now to write about.
Yeah.
And to do at the seminary, organize all the administrative stuff and so on.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how theology again is shaped and our doing
ministry
is shaped by our biography.
I mean, rather than talk about our marketing plan, I talk about our PSYOPs plan, psychological operations, to make people think they really want to come to Ridley. And yeah, I try to organize. I work with a wonderful registry team, but they do most of the admin for the college. And I'm always using military analogy of it'd be like, hey, Alison, I've got a warning order for you. There's what's a warning order? Well, it's basically, there's going to be a task coming up, and I'm telling you about it in advance. So when I tell you to do it, it won't be a surprise. So warning order. So terms like that, I teach them the difference between covert ops and clandestine ops. I tell them, I'm on study leave, so if you need anything, make sure it's an opdem. And what is an opdem? That's an operational demand. Things without which I cannot complete my mission. So if you want to get my attention, on the subject heading, write opdem, and I will know this is very important.
No, I think I need to use that to work with my assistant.
Well, I wanted to do like a profession, like a group bonding day, and I said, let's all go do paintball shooting. And we could run around the Australian bushland, and I could shoot you, and you could run, and you could shoot back. If you work together, you might win, but I am very good.
So what was the response?
Overly
excited?
They said, why don't we just go to a cafe, or maybe go for an afternoon at a winery, and then have dinner somewhere. So they did not want to do, I don't know why. It's gaheimnis. It's a mystery to me.
So what's the future then of theological education? Let's focus on that part a bit. I know that you are also think very positively of the monastic tradition and so on. So what would you say could we learn from the monastic history of the church?
I think there are two different areas of demand. Okay, two different types of education people are craving. Some people like something that's online and convenient and flexible because they're already involved in ministry in their church, or they've got a family, they work part-time in their church, they don't have the ability to uproot and move towns, cities, and quit their job and everything. But I think there are a lot of people as well who are craving community and a sense of deep spiritual hunger. And I think living together as a community where you have meals together, you pray together, you do instruction and formation together. I think a lot of people are hungering for that as well. And I think different people will gravitate to those different models, but I think they both clearly have their place. They've both got their advantages and disadvantages. But the key advantage of doing is something in a quasi-monastic setting is it allows you to enter a different world that is both an anticipation of the world to come and a preparation and a training for the world you then go back out into. So we're not trying to, monastic style training is not like going into a fortress just to keep you safe from the world. It should be more like a military training camp, getting you ready to go back into the world and shine the light of Christ there. So yeah, I think there is definitely something about it, and I've often wondered at our own college, do we need to have a monastic strain where people will live together, get up and say prayers together, have breakfast together? I mean, that could be something we could think about doing one day. I know some people have tried it in Melbourne and it hasn't gone well, but I still think there may be an appetite for it.
Yeah, and I think when we look around, and if I'm now looking at the southern part of the world and not in my Western German context, I see monastic communities in the broadest sense, in some sense, are thriving, where people are really doing well and where religious orders are doing well. Well, I'm not sure if I would call it a fun fact, but we have a hospital in this city that was close to bankruptcy, and it's run by the Vincentine order, the Order of the Vincentines, and the Order of the Vincentines from South Korea saved them because they had the financial power to save the hospital that is essential for the social structure of Paderborn.
Yeah.
So that was just recently. So that's just something where I look at when I look at the monastic tradition and how the majority world receives it, and it has a long history in Europe, in Germany, and so might be there time for some new. It would be time for us to put some new thoughts in it, also for theological education, to make use of that. And now that our numbers in Germany are all, and in the Western world in general, are dropping. So that's just a few thoughts that come to my mind while listening to you. So
yeah, it may well be the case.
It will be interesting to see when the Ridley Monastery will open up. We're looking forward to visit you there.
I may need to convince a few people first.
Yeah.
I may need to convince a few people. I think people would be happy being in a Ridley Monastery as long as I'm not in it.
As long as you are not in it, right?
It's like Michael's not there telling his silly jokes over and over again, and those constant musical theatre singing he does, like Born in Paderborn, rocking. I could not be locked in a monastery with someone doing that.
So then, two more questions before we then also start close up here. What's your favorite book that you wrote? I mean, it's kind of like maybe a silly question to ask the author which books he loves most about.
It's like saying which is your favorite child.
But well, there might be some book. If of all the books, one would pick a book to get to know you first. Which book should they pick to read?
Well, the American Catholic comedian says, if you say to your parents, "Who is your favorite child?" and if they say, "I don't have a favorite," then it's not you. Okay, that's the one thing. So, out of all my books, which is the favorite? Well, there's a number of good ones I'm very proud of. The New Testament That's World with Tom Wright has done very well. It was a pleasure to work with Tom. That was a great project. I like my Romans commentary in the Story of God Bible commentary series. I'm very proud of my Jesus Among the Gods, which is talking about Christology in the context of antiquity. But if I had to pick the one book I am the most proud of, the one I believe that's having the best influence, it would be my book, Evangelical Theology. And for me, although I'm primarily a New Testament scholar, I kind of made a foray into systematics because I found a lot of good systematic theology books written by evangelical theologians, but I didn't really find a book that was authentically evangelical in the sense that it made the gospel the center, boundary, and integrating point for the whole theological project. And that's what I think a real thoroughgoing and consistent evangelical theology is. It makes the gospel thematic. And I think all the various points of theology relate to the gospel. When we talk about God, this is God who is known in the gospel of God. Okay? Salvation is about the gospel of our salvation, to use the language of Hebrews. Mission is the art of gossiping the gospel. Or you could say that the church is the community of the gospelized. So I think everything is tied into the gospel. And that's the book I wanted to explain, I wanted to write and communicate. And I think it's been fairly successful around the world. I'm hoping to do one last third edition. I'm hoping to do at some point. But that's the book that I think I will probably be the best known for.
Third edition, what would you change, fix? I mean, if you hope to have a chance, you must have something in mind.
Yes. Well, I just keep reading things. I think, that is such a good quote. I must add that in. I would like to do more global theology. So when you talk about Jesus as the Word, I would like to add just a short section on Jesus as the Word in contrast to Islam. Okay, so I came across a very good quote from John of Damascus, and he was one of the first Christian theologians to engage Islam. And he said, the Quran says Jesus is the Word of God. So if it's the Word of God there, and if God has a word, it must be an eternal word, so he must be more than a prophet. So I'd like to add something like that. I think the biggest area of theology today that needs attention is the area of anthropology. So I think our biggest debates is what does it mean to be a human being. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about human identity, that kind of thing. And I always have more jokes I want to put in my book as well.
Well, the jokes is really the thriving force at College, right? So, on a more serious note, one last question that might even people might think about when they ask themselves, where should I go to seminary if I really want to go, and what do I need to have in mind? So, what do I, in making this decision to pick which seminary and so on, and what advice would you give them for the choice, but also then for the time when they are at a seminary and preparing?
Well, I would say, if you can, start with the end in mind. Think where you want to go. So are you training for church ministry? Do you want to go on a mission? Do you want to be a chaplain? Do you want to teach in religious education? Think about where you want to go and what will be the best college to take you there. Okay, and some colleges may be better for others. The other thing you've got to think about is the character of the faculty. Now, it's good to study at a college where they've got some famous scholar who's got a big name, writes lots of books or something like that. But believe me, the scholars with the biggest names may not always be there. They may be gallivanting around, and they may not always be the nicest people to work with. Okay, so I find, when I went through seminary, what I remembered from my teachers was not so much their teaching or their great intellect, and though many of them were very smart and intelligent and very thoughtful. What I remember about them was their passion and how they treated me and encouraged me. So those are the two qualities I got from my teachers. It wasn't their great knowledge, because they were very smart, they knew the Bible, they knew theology. What I remember was their passion and how they encouraged me. So I would argue, find a college where the teachers have good passion. If people are bored, or they're not really like, today we are looking at the Gospel of John. The Gospel of John was possibly written about 90 AD in the region of Ephesus. Like, fall asleep. Find someone who's like, today, the Gospel of John. This is a spiritual gospel. We'll go to spiritual heights and depths, and you will be changed. If you're not changed, I will shake you until you are changed. You want people with passion, okay? And people who are going to encourage you. And say, Jürgen, that was a great essay. It's very good. You should be priest in Anglican here. Something.
I will enroll at Ridley now that I'm talking to you here. So start all over again.
So find people with great passion and who will encourage you and help you where to go. And that's, I think, the best thing you can get out of it. It's not academics is very important, but that's only one part of it. And find a community where you believe you will thrive. So, because when it comes to as an educator, at one level we provide content, we provide learning, Bible, theology, practical ministry. But you also want to have what's called the curation of learning, where they help you navigate your way through studies. And you also want to have a community setting where you meet similar-minded people, develop possibly lifelong friendships. I think that's what you're looking for in theological education.
Thank you very much, Mike. I really enjoyed our conversation here, and we will pick up it at some later point for other episodes. But for today, that's it. And thank you for listening to us.
Ja, vielen Dank.